Welcome back. Now the noose is set to tighten on rapists. The government is considering a bill to bring about drastic changes in laws relating to rape. A bill drafted by the National Commission for Women will treat as rape sexual assault of a child below 3 years and a woman above the age of 70. It's not rare that women venturing out alone fall victim to some form of sexual assault, including rape. In fact, in some cases, women suffer some form of sexual harassment, even in crowded situations. And what makes matters worse for her is that often the perpetrator of the crime goes scot-free, thanks to the complex legal procedures. Now, the definition of molestation does not distinguish between different types of the offense. It is difficult to register an FIR and ensure proper investigation. There is no provision for counseling and providing financial aid to the victim. Medical examinations are not carried out promptly, and victim statements are recorded in a haphazard manner. Now, of course, all that could change if the National Commission for Women, or the NCW, has its way. The Union Home and Law Ministries are looking into the fine print, and if the NCW is to be believed, the bill could well be ready before the next session of Parliament. The draft bill replaces the word rape with sexual assault, which includes oral and anal sex, besides penetration by objects or any part of the body. Apart from women, it also includes children of either sex. Child abuse has been redefined and equated with rape. Sexual assault of a child below 3 years and a woman above 70 years will be treated as rape. Under no circumstances a rape victim's statement will be recorded more than once, and that too on camera. And to discuss more on this, we have with us in the studio Ranjana Kumari. She's the director of the Center for Social Research. They helped the National Commission for Women in drafting this legislation. Ranjana Kumari, welcome to Headlines today. First of all, let me ask you to just tell us, as far as the laws that you are proposing will change in relation to rape, tell us the 2 or 3 things that are most significant in these new proposals.
I think first of all, it's a group of women's organizations which have worked together to really push for this change in the rape law, because the whole understanding, because of the definition which was so narrow, that is only penile and vagina penetration that was considered as rape and nothing else. So now the whole definition has been broadened to bring a lot of other forms of assault, sexual assault on women and children into the ambit of the law. The second very important thing is about the children. You know, when the children are have gone through this experience, they have to go at least 7 times narrating the same story, from reporting it back to the mother. Maybe
so things have basically been made easier for the victims, because now they only have to give their statement. We were just reading out over there once in camera, and they don't have to sort of be paraded to identify the accuser.
Absolutely.
I mean,
and
the accused.
And also this whole presumption about consent, you know, normally it's always taken, and that's what, especially in the case of custodial rape, the culprits got scot-free because they would always try to prove that there was a consent of the woman at the time of the rape. Women did agree, or she gave her consent, and the court will not really question that consent and will take it as consent. Second thing which is very important, which is going to happen through this law, is that the sexual past of the woman, you know, even if you have no right to even rape a prostitute, even if she has had the profession where she has been going through this the life, but still you cannot treat her and you cannot rape a prostitute.
And the past life, the past history was coming out in trials, and now what? It is not going to be recorded or taken cognizance of.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me ask you one thing, because we know the stats tell us that only 10% of rapes that actually happen are reported. Obviously, a lot of victims, apart from the embarrassment, they feel that the complex procedures and what they're subjected to during a trial is basically a disincentive for them. So the new laws that you've helped to make basically will make things easier for women to report rape. But there's another problem. After the report, we know that stats tell us only 2% of trials end up in conviction. Absolutely. So what are these proposed changes to the law going to address that problem?
I think because the investigation report, that's where things start going wrong, because one, that investigation reports are not prepared properly by the police due to corruption, due to their own understanding and their own way of looking at this issue, and they always victimize the victim by considering her as a culprit herself, always blaming the woman. This has been the psychology of the police, and that is why they do not create a good report, a careful report. And second thing which is very, very important to understand here is that in case of rape, the witness turns hostile, because the cases are prolonged for 7 years. 8 years. Now, how many times would you want...
Which in fact leads me to the question I was about to in fact come to that, which is, yes, this is one big problem. So what is this law doing, or the proposed law going to be doing, to try and reduce the length of these rape trials?
I think still we have to go one step ahead after changing the law, is to start setting up fast-track courts where all these cases can be transferred. And now that we have 2 precedents, for example, in case of the German...
If I understood you correctly, the fast-track courts are being proposed in the new laws, or you're hoping that something happens that gets these into existence?
Yeah. While this law is going to make it much more easy for the victim to come forward and report, and more comfortable in terms of giving, because it can be video recorded, and once video recorded, she doesn't have to go through excruciating experience of describing what happened to her body repeatedly. So that's one thing. And also, of course, this whole idea of presumption that once she says that her consent was not there, it should be treated as her consent was not there. She should not be cross-questioned on that. So while this will make it easy, this will make it much more victim friendly, this will provide conditions where she will get justice. At the same time, we want fast-track courts to be set up and all these rape cases to be transferred, because it's not a small...
And obviously this is something that cannot be done through legislation. It's something that you expect the executive to do.
Yes.
Let me ask you one more thing, because your proposals, I mean the new law also recognizes for the first time marital rape, which of course is recognized in other countries like the United Kingdom. How prevalent is marital rape in India, number one? And number two, how easy is it going to be for women? We were talking about women reporting. I mean, many women don't report normal rape. How easy is it going to be to get women to report their husbands raping them?
Well, you see, in a society where women's bodies are treated as property, which can be used, abused, violated, and especially in marriage, women becomes property of the man in marriage. Now, if he doesn't care whether she wants it, she desires it, whether she is happy with it or not, he imposes himself on the woman, and this marital rape, unfortunately...
How prevalent is it?
Well, it's very prevalent, I can say that, but at the same time, we do not hear about it.
It's not a small problem. You're saying it's a significant problem.
But women are very silent about it, because they have not come forward.
Which is exactly what I was asking. If 10% of normal rapes are reported, even though by this law, you're recognizing marital rape as an offense, what does this law do to encourage women to come out and say, yeah, I was raped by my husband?
See, the uselessness of this whole justice system, where only 2% women get justice, when really clearly they are able to report, where there is investigation, where only 2% women get justice in case of rapes. Then how many women do you expect will come forward and say that I am raped in marriage? Unless, and how many women will be able to stand the scrutiny of the family, the husband, the community, the people around, to be able to come with strong, with strength and say that I've been raped in marriage.
So what you're saying is that you recognize, you accept that it's not going to be easy for women to report cases of marital rape, but you probably made a beginning by putting it on the statute book.
Absolutely, we have to recognize it as an issue and a problem.
One final thing, because I noticed that the new laws basically raise the age of consent to 18. Now, in a country where millions of marriages are happening, or women especially, below the age of 18, what is the logic of, in fact, raising the age of consent to 18?
Well, you see, we have to raise it and we have to implement it. That is the whole issue. Because, when children are being
that's going to be a huge mountain to cross.
Certainly it is. It is. Because, you see, when the children are getting married, they are sexually abused and assaulted in marriage. The young girls do not know what are their rights, how they can protect themselves. They are getting victims of not only sexual abuse, but even HIV and AIDS. They are getting infected. Do you know and
at the age of 15, 16 or whatever, 17. They're not ready to be married.
They're not ready. Physically, they're not ready. Emotionally, they're not ready.
So is this again a case of putting something that needs to be put on the statute books, but to actually implement it in practice is another big mountain to climb.
Well, I think the government's willingness, the political will, law enforcement agencies' seriousness and their concern about this issue, and also, of course, the community's own desire to change. It all has to walk hand in hand to be able to, but most important thing is that the justice system must be streamlined to deliver justice to women.
Okay,
if women are not getting justice, whatever laws you may make,
well,
it's
I think one thing is
change our
good,
lives.
that the laws on rape haven't been changed for what, like decades, a century. I think the last century, most of our laws lie there from the last century. At least that is changing. Ranjana Kumari, thanks very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
And